We had a lady moved from Puerto Rico. Couldn't speak any English, none. Just came from PR. She got saved in one of our adult services. She got good and saved. Now, there's a difference between people who get saved and people who get good and saved. Now, I can't prove that with chapter and verse, but it's just true. You can do with that whatever you want. She got good and saved. Sat up front, worship, she was into it. It's great lady. She came up to me and through an interpreter, she said, Pastor, I have to do something for God. I have to. He's done so much for me. She said, tell me, what can I do in the church? I said, I don't know. I said, the language thing, it's going to be hard because you can't speak English. She said, please, anything, I'll do it. So I'm thinking, I said, okay, we got 50 buses. I said, just ride a different bus every week and love the kids. I didn't know what to tell her. I mean, what's she going to do, right? Just ride a different bus, love the kids. I didn't think she'd do it because, a lot of people don't do what they say they're going to do. So I kind of put it out of my head. A couple weeks later, one of the bus drivers comes and says, hey, the Spanish lady? All right, here we go. Said, yes, what? Now, what? He goes, what's her story? I said, look, she got saved. She just wants. He said, well, what did you tell her? I said, I told her just ride a different bus every week and love the kids. I thought she can do that. Get on the bus, love the kids. Well, what she did, this is how she interpreted it. She got on the bus and she found the dirtiest, poorest kid on that bus. And she would sit right up front and she would take that kid and put the kid right here. And she learned to say in English, I love you. Jesus loves you. That's all she could say. She learned how to say it in English. And she would ride that bus, put the kid on her lap, and all the way to Sunday school and all the way back, she would whisper to the kid, I love you. Jesus loves you. I love you. Kid, all the way to Sunday school and all the way back. So every week, she would ride a different bus. So I thought, that's great. So this went on for months. And then it was, September? It was September. She comes to me again through the interpreter. She said, Pastor, I don't want to change buses anymore. I want to stay on that bus. So, okay, all right. Well, I asked the bus captain what the deal was. And I'd found out. She had made a connection with one little boy on that bus. The kid lived on Gates Avenue in a crack house over on Gates and Broadway. And we couldn't visit in the house because the dealers wouldn't let our folks in. But the kid, this little 6-year-old boy, he was very thin. And I noticed him. He wasn't in the junior class, but he was in the preschool class. And he would sit in Sunday school like this. And he would just sit there. And I remember one of the teachers went over there and was just going to touch him. And when she stretched her hand out, he went like this. Which you know what that means. You know what that means. And he would never talk, ever. We didn't know if he couldn't talk, didn't know if he just wouldn't talk, but he wouldn't talk. This Spanish lady latched onto this kid for some reason. And she said, I want to stay on that bus. And so we have 3 sessions on Saturday, one at 10 o'clock Saturday morning, one at 1, and one at 4. He came on the 1 o'clock session for the Bed-Stuy kids. And so she's, every week, gets a kid on the bus. He would just be outside the building, and he would just be waiting. She'd put him on her lap, and all the way to Sunday school, I love you, Jesus loves you. And he would just sit, very quietly, never talk. All the way home, I love you, Jesus. This was September, October, November, and it was the second week in December, because I remember we were getting ready for Christmas. Kids never talked. So it's second week in December, right? Everybody's excited for the Christmas stuff coming out. So, regular afternoon, kid comes to Sunday school, bus drives him back. Usually, they would pull up in front, and the lady, one last time, would say, I love you, Jesus loves you, and the kid would just jump off her lap, get off the bus, and go in the back through a window in the building. Today was different. Bus pulls up. Our Lady goes, I love you. Jesus loves you. And he stood up. And when he stood up, he was at about face level because she was sitting in the bus seat. And he turns his back to the rest of the bus so nobody could hear him. And he took his hands like this, put it on her face, and he pulled her face close right up to him, and he tried to say, ah, 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 la, ah, you, and he just gave her a big hug. It was 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon. At 6:30 that night, they found him dead in a garbage bag, thrown in the dumpster. That afternoon, his mother beat him to death with a bat, threw him in a garbage bag and threw him away. But one of the last things that little boy heard from a lady who can't even speak English, I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'm going to tell you one more thing, and I'll be finished. There's a little boy in heaven tonight, and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. Because there was a very, very ordinary little lady who couldn't even speak the language, man. Couldn't even speak the language. But she loved a little boy. And he knew it. And he knew it. And he loved her.